Well, Alex Perera is the director of Renewable Energy Initiatives at the World Resources Institute. I spoke to him earlier. It's a global research firm that specializes in environmental issues. He says that while the U.S. wind market is certainly growing fast, China and India are on the rise as well.
In terms of growth potential, U.S., the market for wind is growing very fast. China is making a lot of investments in wind. But one market that I've been working a lot in is India, and actually seeing some great opportunities in wind energy there, and actually finding that even industrial companies, some of the cement industry, heavy industry, are starting to buy wind power because it's cheaper than coal, which is really exciting. So look for some interesting developments to happen in India.
So you're talking about the success of wind around the world, but isn't that success inextricably married to the success of battery technology and the upgrading of power grids around the world?
It's a good question. What we've found is that the cost of integrating wind into the electricity system is not as high as people might think. And in the Western United States, there's been some studies looking at this specifically and found that the cost of integrating the wind is much, much lower than the benefits to consumers that have occurred from having this lower cost resource put on the grid. And the Pacific Northwest, also in the United States, the Bonneville Power Authority is looking at actually changing the consumption patterns of some of their large industrial and municipal facilities to better match with the output from wind power. So kind of that supply and demand, matching the supply with the demand from renewables can be done in some effective ways, and that can smooth out integration costs of renewables. So there's lots of innovation in this space, and really look to see some advances over the coming years that will further reduce the cost of integration.
You talk about improvements in the United States. Are we seeing improvements in the infrastructure to support wind energy in other places around the world?
So yes, we are. So in other parts of the world like India, there's clear goals to really increase the amount of renewables needed or supplied on the grid. And yes, that country is looking to make improvements in infrastructure and transmission infrastructure to be able to bring the wind power into where it's needed. The other great opportunity in India is on-site power. So we're actually looking at a project for, this isn't wind related, but on-site solar, generating the power right where it's needed. Because in some places, the demand-supply gap, and there's not enough energy generated to meet the demand served. And so anything you can do to bridge that gap is fantastic. And so in that case, solar has been a great tool because you can put it right where the energy is needed to be consumed.
How about for investors? What areas do you see that would be a really good opportunity for them when it comes to wind?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that there are some real innovations in turbine technology, being able to generate power at lower wind speed. That's going to be really interesting. That's going to open up new opportunities to put wind. There's going to be some real interesting technologies to be able to better match supply, as I was talking about, supply and demand, and kind of software tools to be able to better do that in a more efficient way. So kind of looking at both the technology in particular, but also the technologies to integrate and innovate on the integration of these kinds of resources into the grid will be some good opportunities.
So when we talk about wind, we often talk about the fact that the wind doesn't blow all the time. Critics use that to say wind is not a viable way to go. What do you have to say to them?
Well, a large power plant can go down in any one day for maintenance or for scheduled or unscheduled maintenance, and then that's 1,000 megawatts that comes off the grid. With wind, it's actually quite a reliable technology, and other renewables have become quite reliable. So while their generation varies throughout the day, we're getting better at predicting when that generation is going to happen. In my view, it's one of the least risky options available.